Morning once again, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us again. And those that are joining us for the first time today, welcome. If you attended the first session over in the Wellbeing Hub with Professor Tim Marsh, I hope you've managed to come down a bit, because I know what Tim's like when you get started. And I'm not quite sure this morning, I didn't get across there to see it, whether or not he actually had to up doing exercises and things like that, which is something that he often does. We're going to continue in the Keynote Thursday here with the big professional bodies, and I am delighted to welcome NEBOSH, represented today by Ian Cooke. I'm not going to talk about what presentation he's doing. Ian has a fantastic history of in the industry. He could talk for hours on various different subjects, but I'm going to let him take over and take you through the presentation.
Thank you, Peter. I'll try not to talk for too long. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session. Thank you to Astutis for sponsoring us and for the kind sweets. So I've obviously been bribed here today, but I'll wait till after my talk before I have one. So today's session really, how to use training to reinforce your risk management system. And the key takeaways I hope you'll get from today is how to align your HSE training to your company objectives, which I think is key for any business. Whatever size you are, whatever industry you are, you really want to maximize HSE training, whether that's internal, external, accredited, non-accredited, HSE training, okay? I think training, often a lot of the conversations I have with organizations at the moment, particularly when you're looking at shorter programs, are linked to marketing. So training isn't just about sitting in a classroom from 9 o'clock till 3, which is usually when you get let out. No, it should be 5 o'clock, obviously. They've submitted their timetable to NEBOSH. We are checking these. But the traditional method of sitting in a room following a lesson plan, actually, today's world allows us to be a bit more flexible with that learning and learning in the flow of work. So actually, it's more of a marketing campaign sometimes, isn't it? Trying to get a key message across to your workers about their behaviours. Okay? So I'll talk about that. And also how to strengthen those collective control measures that as health and safety professionals, this is your expertise. Health and safety professionals love measuring things. So I'll talk about some of the collective control measures we use in the HSE world as well, and how that should link to your training. So, sorry, wrong way, pressing the wrong button. If you look about risk generation, this is probably back to basics with you guys. If you take any typical business, this could be a hairdresser's, an accountancy, a manufacturing business, whatever business you might work for. You tend to have some inputs. Those inputs could be raw materials, they could be people, vehicles coming onto your site, lots of things, obviously. You, as a business, hopefully add value, and then you produce a good or service that you place onto the market. Basic model, right? We're all familiar with this. So if you're a hairdresser, somebody comes in with long hair, get the haircut, they go out with short hair. If you're an accountant, you've got some numbers, they make them look better for you, and you get more shareholders, more stock, more profit. If you're a big manufacturing business, you might have a delivery vehicle with a driver with chemicals on the back that are potentially a risk to you, your staff, your visitors. That vehicle itself is a risk, right? That driver driving the vehicle, we know about transportation risks in businesses. The chemicals themselves that are coming onto your site, they're not just a risk in their raw format, but you're probably going to process them. And the outputs of those chemicals, dust, fumes, vapors, they're also the risks that you generate. And as you know, that's your responsibility. So if you go back to a simple business like a hairdresser's, they use chemicals, don't they, in their business. And the processes they apply them is where they generate the risk. And then your outputs. When you place your products on the market, you have a duty to your customers. So we get it, risk. Where does it all sit? We all know Section 40 of the Health and Safety at Work Act, don't we? Anyone know Health and Safety at Work Act, Section 40? For me, one of the most important parts of it. Anyone? Okay, it's early today. This might help. If you generate risk as a business, What are you required to do? And to what level? Can anyone answer that? What? Sorry. Control the risk. Exactly. To what standard? In most cases, as low as reasonably practicable. So that default position then puts the burden on the employer to do that, doesn't it? It reverses that you have to proactively control that risk. So you have to do something about this before the accident happens. We all get that, right? Good. That's a really simple, I think, and very powerful point in health and safety. And it's a great piece of the Health and Safety at Work Act. So what I'm going to do is simplify that a little bit today and call those things collective safety measures. I sometimes call it the green line of safety, because often if you do a risk assessment, the bad things are red, the good things are green. It's not complicated today, is it? So what do I mean by collective safety measures? Anyone got any examples, potentially? Yeah, by one system. Good, that's perfect. Yeah, there's a system. So let's have a look at this system. Well, it often starts at the very top with a statement of intent. I think that's where the very top of this system is, because that's the one page that talks about what your business is going to do, doesn't it? And that then gets the commitment from the senior leadership. Could I ask a question here of the audience then? How many of you, when you look at your statement of intent, feel it communicates in a tone of voice that's easily understood by the workers in your business? And what I mean by that, it doesn't sound like a legal contract. It doesn't say, we, the employer, shall ensure you, the employee, are safe so far as is reasonably practicable from all the risks we, the employer, God, you feel like you're in a contract, don't you? How many of you have a statement of intent that communicates clearly to your workers what you hope to achieve as a business? Put your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10. Can't count how many people are here, but I'd say that's probably less than 25%. A lot less. So why is that important? My earlier point, when I said about training is part of a campaign to change behaviour, how are you going to reinforce behaviours if there isn't a clear message from the top? How can you ensure your training that you deliver across your business helps you achieve your overall targets if you're not using a similar tone of voice, language, and wording that all of your staff should easily relate to the overall objective of being safe at work? Does that kind of make sense? So I find that really important. When I've worked with businesses in the past, it's the first thing I will read, and then I drill into it quite a lot. In the past, I used to see big businesses, global brands, they would omit the word health from some of their objectives, and they would focus only on safety. And we all know now how important health is. I would hope most businesses have included good wording around health in their statement of intent now. Okay? As an example. So, if you get that right, and it drips through all of your green line of safety, you're on the way to having a clear message within your business. Just another question for the audience then. Where are most of the incidents occurring in this green line of safety? Where do you think some of the gaps in your green line of safety are today? Anyone? Supervision. Do you know, I actually really agree with that as well. A lot of the companies I'm talking to have challenges around supervisors effectively supervising their staff. It's not about them being technically brilliant HSE professionals. It's just about them watching what their staff are doing, making sure they're following the safe systems at work and risk assessments, which we know sits up here. And risk assessment sits as part of that, doesn't it, really? So, but it's that bit. It's effectively making sure that's followed, isn't it? That's a good one. I agree. And if they're not supervising, you're not getting the right worker behaviour. Anybody else? Comments on where their gaps are? Not reporting. Okay. So you're not knowing where your risks are or where your failures and controls are. So. Safe systems of work? Too generic. Another one. How many of you use video technology to communicate safe systems of work? Are we still all writing down safe systems of work? Just interested on that one. One person video? Anyone else? Two? I've worked with some American companies. Again, big companies, their standard is videos for all safe systems of work. We all use YouTube to build our en-suites and garages and sheds. It works, doesn't it? Is the law happy with the video? Do you think HSE inspectors happy to see a safe system of work in the video? Yeah, as long as it's well documented and you've communicated the key bits, isn't it? Okay, I think I'll leave it there. The point is, what I'm trying to say here is that it's really important you align these things, and I think we've got to start with the statement of intent. And we can see training where that sits. And also that's one of the methods you're going to communicate all of this to your workers to hopefully drive the behaviour. But I agree the supervision, that's a massive help. Okay, then obviously if we do that, if we do get that bit right, we hopefully get team buy-in. Because hopefully what you'll see, if I can press the right button, is all your workers now are clearly aligned to what the leadership want. The leadership have signed that statement of intent, all of that's filtered through your documents, the training is aligned. Happy workplace. And I will just, one tip maybe, but please, I'd love feedback from people who've done this as well, if you've got experience. Try not to overcomplicate what you try to achieve in that statement of intent. Sometimes just focusing on one or two things, but really doing that well, will drive the right behaviour. An example of that, different client, is where they've picked up on mobile phone usage on sites and really sort of, they're actually a quarry stroke mining company, and they have a large logistics part of their business, but picking up on telephone usage meant the employees understood how serious health and safety was being taken. And then when you're asking them to wear the high-vis jackets, hats, shoes, or follow the safe systems of work, people sort of correlated the consequence of not following a rule, and then realised the culture here was high standard. What was expected was to follow the procedures. So just picking one or two areas of your culture, but doing it really well, can actually then precipitate through to other areas of your more complex safe systems of work and behaviours, if that makes sense. You can't police everything all the time, can you? So that's one thing I wanted to say there. So where does the training fit in? I think I've mentioned a lot of this. It does cover all of it. It should be risk-based approach. Invest more in your health and safety training where you have greater risk. And the point here is the HSE. This is where I want to get to my next part of the talk. It's not just tickets. There's too much training out there. And there are some really good off-the-shelf products, but there's a lot of it which doesn't align to the things I've just said. And it won't align to maybe the task that your workers are doing either. And an example of that is I spoke to a business recently who would like our manual handling risk assessment courses, which is a great course. HSE, there's the sales bit. HSE have approved it. Mac assessment tool built in, really good course. But do you need 100 workers doing the job to be Mac assessors, risk assessment trained? No, you need a team of people in the business to know how to carry out manual handling risk assessments. But the people doing the job, guess what they need? They need to know how to do their job safely. They need to understand the safe system of work, how to apply it. That's it. Anything else, you could argue you've overcomplicated it for them. So this particular company I was talking to, they took variable loads, different shapes, sizes from a container, and moved them onto racking. Their training should have been designed specifically for that task, and it only had to be maybe 20 minutes long with a practical of how to do these different lifts, and then supervised. So we're coming on to the bit I'm here for, really. This is where, with NEBOSH, we have got, as a charity, an opportunity to help influence this. CIPD data tells us 84% of businesses don't measure the impact of their training. That's CIPD data from 2020. And each year I see similar numbers. In America, I think it's 89% of businesses do not measure the impact of their training. My question to you is, why do you do it then? Why do we bother running all this internal if we're not going to measure? Wouldn't it be better to take the time to get it right and do it properly? So we've got 3 things we think companies should do to make sure their training is effective. Number 1, what is your training needs? What are you trying to achieve? In the example I just gave, identify the shape, size, weight of a load. Second, how do I move it safely? Then you can write the course or choose the course with the right learning outcomes in it to hit those 2 things. That's what you want to achieve. That will hopefully link to where all your data is telling you where your need is coming from. The second one, make sure the content reinforces those clear messages. Tell your workers they're on this course because that's what they need to do. And when they finish the training, someone's going to check them. Make it obvious. Don't let them sit in a room going, why am I on this training? What am I doing here? I see it a lot. I really, really do. I see a lot of courses submitted or companies I work with, and they've failed to tell the learners why they're all on it. Just be open, be honest. Tell them. And tell them they're going to be monitored. And do use the right delivery methods. I'm a big fan of technology, but only where it applies to the content you're doing. So I've just given a manual handling example. An e-learning course, probably not perfect just for that one, but a virtual reality, coupled with some practical skills, potentially with some e-learning, the combination of them could achieve the right outcome. So think about what you're trying to achieve first before you select the method of study that's appropriate to that, if that makes sense. And then the third one, make sure if you've understood what you're trying to achieve, think about how you're going to measure the outcome. So in that example, you could have a supervisor sign off on the workers when they're doing the lifts correctly. And maybe they have to do 3 random observations over a period of 2 months. And only then, when they've completed the training, passed an assessment, knowledge check quiz. If you want, you can grill them under a spotlight, put them in an exam room, make them sweat. But regardless of those assessments, you can also put a practical assessment in place, get them signed off by a supervisor. And when they've got all of those components, then you can sit in. If you do all those things, I hope you find the learners enjoy it a lot more as well. And make it easy for yourself. As HSE professionals, most of you will do all of these things. So if I just go back a second and go, right, find a way of measuring the performance of our training. How are we going to do that? Well, look at health and safety professionals, how many tools we have in the box. How many of you are currently monitoring your management system with one or more of those? Most of you already know where your problems are because one of these things are telling you that's where your problem is. It's through these things you know that manual handling incidents are high. Stress is your your biggest lost time cause. So all of these things are already in your business. What I'm trying to say to you, when you choose your training methodologies, try and align it to one of the existing measures you already have and see, after the training, can you see some improvements? And you'll see on here, I've put things like observations. And I'm just going to pick up on that because you mentioned supervision. It's a great one. It could just be that. And raise of hands. Who thinks a supervisor should know what their workers are doing? Everyone. Right. So if you were to do some training and then ask the supervisor to sign them off, is that an additional task? No. Well, I've had those comments put back to me. Oh, I'll have to check if we can ask the management team if they can check what their teams are doing. I'm kind of like, true story. So it shouldn't be hard to implement the right checks. The hard bit is defining your goals. Like I said, that's the hard bit. From experience, again, another quick example. Spoke to a large company, very experienced, super intelligent person, chemical safety training. When I drilled down, what was the problem? Chemical storage. When I looked at the cost reports they'd sent me, did not cover anything about chemical storage. So the hard part is getting, number one, your learning goals clearly defined. Once you've got those defined, it becomes easy. You check the content aligns to it, you find an appropriate measure, and then you embed it and check it that you get the right performance. And then you get value, then you get return on investment, then you get the measures we've all talked about and want. What you can do, this is a slight sidestep just to help you. So this is a part of the training. Whatever training you deliver, I want you to think about this consequence we've just talked about. So to get to consequence, and many of you might have seen this before, I'm just going to show you a quick model which might help. Some of you, anyone know what's going to come next? Someone said it then, I think. Behaviour. Anyone know what's coming next? You probably know what the letter is, and I've said it, consequence. So what these words mean, this is a behavioural program, well, it's a behavioural theory used for learners who struggle with learning. People have learning difficulties. But it's actually really applicable to all of us, to everyone, whether you have learning difficulties or not. This method can help ensure the training delivers what you want it to do. So let me just explain. A stands for antecedents. That's everything that's gone before. How many of you grew up in the same village, went to the same school, had the same parents, right? We're all different. You are influenced by so many things throughout your lives. Training, culture, religion, education. So antecedents is basically everything that's in your head. When you are faced with a decision, let's say one you've never made before, your choice will be based on everything that's gone before. The consequence will be the outcome of your decision. That reinforces everything that's gone before. So, if I get in my car and speed on the way home, I get home quicker. What will I do next time I get in my car? I will speed. Okay. Who can answer this question? If we put you all on a training course today, which part of this will be influenced? If we just say, put you on a, like this session now. Let's talk about this session with me now. What's being influenced right now in you guys as you hear me talk? Do we think behaviour? Maybe. Some of you may go away and change your behaviours. What am I actually influencing directly? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Heard someone else. Yeah. Basically antecedents and obviously the outcomes, but antecedents. So this is everything that's gone before. I'm now shaping your thoughts and knowledge around this topic today. You're now thinking, oh yeah, what Ian's saying is right. Okay, I might do that differently. So yes, it could influence behaviour, but really it's influencing your knowledge, isn't it? What's really going to drive? How many people go on driving awareness courses then continue to speed? Well, so you go and get your knowledge changed, but your behaviour is ultimately down to you and your core values and who you are, right? So a big part of changing behaviour, and it's not perfect science, is consequence. And consequence can be both positive and negative. So in your training examples, what I'm trying to get to here, whatever training you implement in your business, ensure the learners on those programs understand the consequence of this training. Understand that that could be a positive. For those of you that are good at motivational type performance targets or using positive carrots instead of sticks, brilliant. That's a good thing. But also I feel with human behaviour, you have to have a negative consequence. It's a bit like being a parent, isn't it? Don't know what you think of that. And if I use my speeding example, how many of you think follow speed limit signs when it's just the red circle with a number in the middle? Anyone know the percentage? Well, it's 12%. Have you all had driving tests and driving lessons? Have you all read the highway code? Do you know the law? When it says 30 in a red circle, it means 30 miles an hour. But only 12% of us follow that. How many of us follow it when there's a white metal sign with a camera in the middle? It's the same, still a metal sign, it's a piece of metal. It's not an actual camera. Well, apparently about 85% of us follow that. What's changed on that one? Consequences changed on that one. And what's changed really is behaviour. So consequence definitely works. How you embed it in your training is up to you guys and how you get that measure. So I'm getting close to the end. So hopefully that helps reduce your risks, effective training overall. If you get those bits right, hopefully there's some useful takeaways from that. Obviously you can talk to NEBOSH about this if you wish. We are here today on the stands, but yeah, it's the key takeaways. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them now. So I don't know if there's a question from anyone.
Regards training, as the law keeps evolving, things like cost, stuff comes in. Are there any government recommendations for how training should be able to do it? Basically, everything downstream of that. Government changes the law, all the training companies have a massive scramble to try and figure out what does this mean, and then we go from there.
Oh no, it's highly organised. British government? It's highly organised, like other aspects of the British government. Yeah. No, I think there is.
Work for the government, no, it isn't.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I think there is always consultation periods. There are the effective dates of when legislation come in. So there's always a bit of time for exam boards and training organisations to update their material. But the truth is, they're probably at similar speeds to you guys. There is a motivation for exam boards and training companies to get these things ready quickly. For example, with Martin's Law, is currently being debated now, isn't it? Martin's Law, public safety. There's a requirement there for people to be competent to carry out public safety risk assessments on buildings. That's now back in debate, and for good reason. I think there are some questions around it. But that makes it quite difficult to design a qualification if the law could change. So there's people ready to go with those things now, and there's a lot of work in the background that you can't launch them. So good question, really. I don't know if that helps answer it. It would be better if there was a phased approach. I think if I could influence anyone. That's it, yeah. So thank you everyone for coming today, and to say, hope you have a great day. Safe travels on the way home.
Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the appreciation for Ian and wonderful presentation. Okay, our next presentation is about 30 minutes. Can I encourage you to get out and go and meet with our sponsors and our trade people as well. They're here to support you. And hopefully I'll see you in 30 minutes when I'll have the pleasure of introducing the Chief Operating Officer of NEBOSH. Thank you.